Hello lovelies, and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are new, welcome back. If you are returning, my name is Tari here at owldefinemyself, and I'm so happy to have you join me today so that we can discuss episode 6 in the Shadow Work series. We are going to be talking about shame, judgment, and the inner critic. So just a little bit of a recap. We've talked about defining what shadow work is. We have talked about the importance of creating safety, to even be able to do this work. We've talked about the importance of our triggers, that self-awareness and acknowledging what they are telling us and using them as messengers. We have also talked about the mask that we typically wear when it comes to how we essentially present in the world, right? And how do we remove those masks to be able to live authentically? And then last week, we spoke about the inner child healing, okay? So again, I have notes in front of me, so if my eyes are kind of in different places, I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything for you guys. We have 2 more episodes left after this one, and I am super excited to dive into today's episode. So clear your thoughts, your mind. Let's be present and vulnerable with one another. Again, remember, this is a safe space. We are here to support one another and to learn and grow together. So, a few things that I'm going to touch on today when we talk about shame, judgment, and the inner critic. I really want you to think about, when was the first time you felt ashamed of something? When was the first time that little voice inside of you told you, you're not pretty enough? You're not good enough. You're not strong enough. You're too weak. Maybe you shouldn't act like this because people see you this way. At what point, or can you think about a moment where you felt this way, right? And think about how that made you feel. And essentially where those thoughts could have possibly stemmed from. One of the important things to remember about shame and all of those things, judgment and the inner critic, is that shame is something that is inherited, okay? It's not something that's innate. It's not something that you are born with, that is genetic, that you come out the womb and you're like, I'm ashamed. It's not how that works. So shame is something that is learned. Again, it's not something that is innate. It's something that is inherited. The second thing is that I want us to remember that the inner critic is also something that is learned. So when I go through these talking points, I'm really going to place a heavy emphasis on shame being something that's learned and the inner critic being something that it's learned. Something that, again, stems from many things that have developed over time. As every single episode, we have built upon different or various aspects of shadow work and how they are all interconnected and tie in together. So this will just be another component or aspect of shadow work. And then lastly, I want to remind you that spirit is inviting, okay? We are not here to judge ourselves. We are not here to judge one another. We are here to approach this with grace and compassion, because that is how you truly develop healthy coping mechanisms and strategies whenever you are doing shadow work. So let's go ahead and dive in. The first point that I'm going to address when it comes to shame, judgment, and the inner critic is that shame is something that is learned. It is not something that is innate. If you really think about it, and when you were a child, right, you had no worries, especially when you were little. If someone asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? You were like, I want to be a freaking superhero. I want to be able to fly. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And you were so fearless. Do you know why? You were fearless because you hadn't yet learned or had been told that you can't do it, that this isn't real, that this doesn't exist. You hadn't been boxed in, right? You hadn't been judged for thinking outside of the box or having different dreams of sorts, right? Like, none of that. So it's important to remember that shame is something that is learned. And a lot of the times it is coupled with some sort of situation or circumstance, something that happens to you, and it causes you to kind of stop and question, oh my gosh, like, is this something that I should say out loud? Is this something I should really go for? Is this something I should be proud of? What's wrong with me? Why don't I look like so-and-so? Why don't I have as many friends as so-and-so? And it kind of causes this comparison, right? Comparison is the killer of all joy and all the things. And when you were younger and a child and so vibrant and free, there wasn't this shame placed upon you for being who you were. Therefore, it wasn't something that became like second nature to you, right? And we have to remember, as in previous episodes that I've stated, a lot of things develop from various states. It could be a form of protection. It can be a form of survival. But at the end of the day, it's important to remember the number one thing is that shame, the judgment, their inner critic, those are all things that are learned. They are not something that you are naturally born with. Second point is going to be that the inner critic is often formed to protect. Typically, however, that inner critic is also formed out of fear, right? And having this fear or allowing fear to control various aspects of your life, a lot of the times it is coming from, oh, well, I have to protect myself. If I don't do this, then no harm will come to me. If I don't do this, then I'll never fail. So everything is good, right? But we have to remember that fear is the opposite of love, okay? And we have to remember that our thoughts matter so much. What you tell yourself matters more than what other people speak into you. And it's definitely a rewiring of the subconscious for sure. I wish that I had, outside of my number one superpower being, I wish that I could talk to animals and, have my kind of Dr. Dolittle thing going. But I honestly wish that every single thought that I had in my mind was positive. It spoke like I had the ability to innately, not inherently, but innately speak life into myself, speak positivity into myself. Full transparency, that is something that even sometimes I still struggle with today, right? But I have the awareness to know where certain things stem from. And maybe I need to feel what I need to feel, and then I choose to move forward at the end of the day. But oftentimes that inner critic is coming to say, hey, if you don't do this, then you won't get hurt. If you don't do this, then you won't lose. If you don't do this, then you won't fail. If you don't do this, then, you can't be blamed for this. A lot of the times that inner critic is coming from a protective space and place from within. However, we do need to be mindful of the kind of protection, right? Is this protection coming from a space and place of love, like having healthy boundaries with people? Because we're all here for boundaries. We need those. However, if this inner critic is coming from a space and place of fear, then a lot of the times you're being held back, or it can hold you back. So I really want you to think about this week whether or not your inner critic is coming from a space and place of love, or if your inner critic is coming from a space and place of fear. My third point is compassion softens judgment. Again, creating a safe space to be able to do this kind of work and unpack all of these parts of self that we ultimately want to love and embrace and should, because we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and people don't get to pick and choose the parts of us that they love or the parts of us that they wish we weren't. So it's important for us to have compassion for ourselves, because compassion, it's almost like killing a person with kindness, right? Compassion allows you to say, hey, these are the kind of thoughts that I'm having. I'm feeling this way because of this, but I know that everything is going to be okay. I know that even though I'm feeling or I'm hearing these thoughts, this is what I'm telling myself. I know that I'm capable of this, regardless of if I don't get the job or if I don't do this, right? If I don't try, you miss 100% of the opportunities or the shots that you don't take in life. Okay? So that's also something that's very, very important to remember. The fourth thing is that awareness weakens shame cycles, okay? What is a shame cycle? Well, what is a cycle? Okay? Something that occurs over and over and over again. And sometimes shame cycles don't necessarily have to happen consecutively, right? But there can be certain things or situations or experiences that serve as triggers, and then therefore shame cycles begin based off of these triggers or things that you have experienced that are still very difficult to unpack or that you haven't addressed to unpack. Awareness is key to everything, okay? Awareness allows ourselves to be able to identify the who, what, when, where, why, and how of anything when it comes to ourselves. And as a result of that, we are able to gel and blend the emotional aspect of self along with the logical aspect of self and find a balance between allowing both to coexist at once. With any given situation or scenario, you're not meant to be this human being that is completely emotionless, that feels absolutely nothing, that is numb to absolutely everything. Where's the fun in that, people? You are meant to feel. Now, what that awareness does is it takes those emotions and it allows us to regulate them in a sense of, we have sat in this space where we have unpacked why we are feeling these things and what they are ultimately tied to, and how we are going to go about moving forward to take those practical steps to still create the safe space for us to feel what we need to feel. We've identified it, and logically, what are the next best steps to move forward? So literally, awareness weakens the shame cycle by being a blend of kind of best of both worlds. Acknowledging your feelings and emotions, because we're not here to be dismissive of ourselves. We're here to be compassionate, to extend grace, all of those things, while also marrying the logical aspect of things, right? I know that being a black woman, being a woman, but specifically being a black woman, sometimes black women get bad reps for having, she's too emotional, she's got a bad attitude, all of the things, right? And it's one of those things where we're not here to censor those emotions, people, okay? Emotions are meant to be felt, all right? If you don't feel your emotions, you're clogged, and you should get a plunger, because that's not healthy, okay? Stuffing things down is not healthy. That's how you have panic attacks. That's how you have breakdowns. Just everything being so pent up, okay? So it's important to feel, but we need to have emotional intelligence and be able to meet those things with logic to articulate the who, what, when, where, how, and why of our emotions. And how do we move forward? Okay? My next point is that silencing the critic is not required. Okay? When it comes to shame, judgment, and the overall inner critic, right? Silencing your critic, it's not required. Sometimes the reality is that your critic, again, your critic can be good. Your inner critic can be a great way of holding yourself accountable when it comes to things, right? Let's say you are having issues with your health, or you have this goal that you want to work out twice a week. I say twice a week because start small, people. Baby steps, baby chunks. You don't eat the whole cake, you eat part of it, and then eventually you get to the whole cake, right? But it's important to remember that, again, is your inner critic coming from a space and place of love, or is your inner critic coming from a space and place of fear? That inner critic that loves me when I don't, and don't get me wrong, grace is fine. But if it's come to 3 weeks and I've said, oh, I want to make changes, I want to start working out 2 days a week, but 3 weeks has come and gone, and I haven't lifted one weight, I haven't gone for a walk outside, I haven't done anything to exercise 2 days out of the week, and three weeks has gone by, my inner critic is going to be like, girl, come on now. Like, here we go again. You say you wanted to see something different, yet you're not doing anything different, which means you're going to go through the same shame cycle, right? Of judging yourself for whatever that may be, whether that's your health, how you're feeling, your joints, all of the things, a certain aesthetic. But my inner critic could very well tell me, you need to start showing up for yourself. You said you wanted to do this for yourself because you love yourself and you show up for other people so easily. So why are you not showing up for yourself? That is that inner critic that's saying, girl, let's do this. Like, it's time to be better. It's time to do better. So you can get different results, but you got to show up in order to do that. That's an inner critic talking, coming from a space and place of love, right? So having the discernment when it comes to your inner critic, because again, this inner critic never goes away. Okay. This isn't, and it doesn't necessarily have to, it's not required, right? Again, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, but having the discernment when it comes to identifying where this inner critic is coming from is critical and key. And again, that's tied to that awareness to prevent shame cycles from going and going and going. Okay? My last point is going to be that kindness builds self-trust. Kindness builds self-trust. Be kind to yourself. A lot of the times we treat other people way better than we treat ourselves. And it's kind of wild. It's like a bit diabolical. Do you feel that you are kind to yourself? In any given situation or scenario, would you extend the same grace and compassion to yourself that you do to others effortlessly? Whether it's family, whether it's friendships, whether it's working relationships, romantic relationships, do you extend that grace and forgiveness that you give to others effortlessly? Do you do that with yourself? And if you don't, now might be a great time to sit with why you don't. And think about how you can make little steps to being kind to yourself so that you feel safe enough to trust that you've got you. All will be well at the end of the day. No matter if you're triggered, if you're experiencing shame, if that inner critic is going, you approaching yourself with kindness, you are coming and operating from a space and place of love, and you are saying you are safe here. I am safe here. I am safe with me. Okay? And I think that reflective question I want to leave you guys with is I want you to think about, what does your inner voice sound like in this moment? Or maybe last week, what did your inner voice sound like? You can pick a day, you can pick the week, the overall general vibe and mood. What did your inner voice sound like? Was it kind? Was it encouraging? Was it protective? Was it scared? Was it tired? And give yourself the space to sit in that, okay? In this moment of hearing your inner critic, but really breaking down and understanding that shame, again, is something that is learned. It's inherited. It's not something that's innate. It's not something that you're genetically born with, okay? These are things that are learned and often formed from protective measures, survival measures, and just honestly lifing people. But it's that awareness where we are able to blend the emotional with the logical and give ourselves the space with kindness and grace to navigate our inner critics, right? Not silencing them, but having discernment when it comes to when we need to pivot. Because ultimately you have all of the control. Why? Because you get to control yourself. All right, lovelies, that is all that I have for you today. I hope that you found this message informative and beneficial. I hope that it touched your spirit as much as it touches mine to sit here in front of this camera and just be in community with you all. Please like the video. It just helps the channel for me to reach more people. It's completely free. I would love for you to subscribe and join Parliament as I try to post content weekly. And I would love to have you. If you want more information or like a personal reading as well, you can find all of that information below in the description box. And certainly last but not least, there will also be journal prompt questions posted in the description box as well, so that you can really have some time unpacking and breaking down this episode centered on shame, judgment, and the inner critic. I'm sending you guys peace, love, and light. I'm going to love you and leave you until next time. Bye.